Welcome back to the Middle Eight Football Podcast, the fastest 8 minutes in sports. I'm Joe Burks, your host, and today we're going to be breaking down the Thursday night football game between the Cowboys and the Eagles. It is the morning of Friday, September 5th, and a super exciting game last night with a lot of season-long implications that I'm super excited to break down for you guys. If you don't already follow the podcast, go ahead and do that. Share with your friends. Go follow us on Instagram, TikTok, wherever. I post shorts and reels pretty much every day. So a great way to start off the NFL season, a super exciting game between two teams that will most likely be in the playoffs by the time the regular season ends. Eagles did end up winning 24-20. And despite an hour-long weather delay, I think it was lightning or something like that, the game still ended up being super exciting at the end. And we will kind of some overall takeaways at the end here. Breaking down team by team, we're going to start with the Eagles. Jalen Carter, superstar defensive tackle for the Eagles, was ejected after the kickoff right before the first snap because he spat on Dak Prescott, the quarterback for the Cowboys. And I think that's been a rule for years. I think players have been ejected for that many times before, so not really a way to argue with Carter being ejected. Super unfortunate for the Eagles, as we saw later, and obviously that had some repercussions for the rest of the game that we're going to go over. But moving on to the the actual gameplay, the Eagles' defense at many points looked very, very strong. The linebackers specifically, Zach Bond, who was an All-Pro, Pro Bowler last year, kind of came out of nowhere after the Eagles gave him that chance to start at inside linebacker, looked absolutely fantastic in pass coverage, made some really clutch tackles, helped out in run defense. But it was also Jahad Campbell, the 30th overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft for the Eagles, that really stepped up. A lot of people thought that he should have been drafted much earlier, linebacker out of Alabama, and he was all over the field last night. Kind of proved him right. He had a really nice pass breakup deep over the middle of the field. And had a forced fumble. I believe he was in the red zone on Miles Sanders, Cowboys running back. Punched the ball out. The Eagles recovered, and that kind of really helped the momentum of the game come back towards the Eagles, even if there weren't a ton of points scored in the second half. I think by the season's end, there's a chance this could be I mean, from what we've seen so far, if this continues from both the linebackers, this could be a top 5 linebacker duo in the entire NFL. Moving on to another part of the defense, like I said in our last show, I was kind of worried about that other outside corner spot opposite of Quinyon Mitchell. It was between Adoree Jackson and Keely Ringo. And Adoree Jackson got the start. He got picked on all night. He let up a couple receptions super early on in the game, had some pass interference penalties. If his play continues like that, I don't expect him to be the starter for the rest of the season. Could be something to watch. Maybe the Eagles try to bring in a corner on the trade deadline, try to give Ringo more of a chance. But Adoree Jackson did look really bad. And another big storyline for this Eagles team, the lack of volume going towards the wide receivers. A.J. Brown had one target, one catch for 8 yards. That was in the fourth quarter. Helped him get, I believe it was on the last drive of the game for the Eagles. Helped him get really close to a first down that helped them seal the game. So there was that, and they got the win, so you can't really complain. But I don't know if he wasn't part of the game plan or just wasn't getting open. And then Devonta Smith also 3 targets, 3 receptions for only 16 yards. So not a ton of volume going to either Eagles receiver. That was the reason I kind of avoided them for fantasy football. I thought the rushing game would get a ton of attention for this offense. It would be the main focus of the offense, and we saw that play out last night. Jalen Hurts had a ton of rushing attempts. He had 14 carries for 62 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. That was obviously the main focus. And then Saquon Barkley obviously got a ton of volume as well. Played very, very well. No worries about Saquon Barkley. He's exactly the player that we saw last year. And the running backs behind him, Will Shipley, second-year player out of Clemson, and then A.J. Dillon was on the Packers the last few years. They both looked very solid in relief of Barkley whenever he was on the sideline, just getting a rest. So could be a really nice backfield of 3 guys. Obviously, Saquon Barkley is the lead back. No one's questioning that. But if he were to unfortunately suffer an injury or just rests a game, Shipley and Dillon looked very solid against the Cowboys defense. This Eagles offense overall looked really focused on the short passing game. There was one deep completion to Jahan Dotson, the wide receiver 3 for this team, about 50 yards. But a lot of just short passes over the middle of the field. Dallas Goedert, the tight end, was super involved. 7 targets, 7 receptions, 44 receiving yards. So he was a huge part of this game plan. Hurts was always able to dump it off to him. There was like a crossing route. He was open over the middle of the field. Obviously, a new offensive coordinator in place, like I said in our last episode. Kellen Moore's now the head coach of the Saints. He was their coordinator last year. It looks like this is going to be a short, focused passing game, and the rushing attack, like it was so amazing last year, is going to fuel this offense to get big leads. Now moving on to the Cowboys side of things, I thought the team did a good job taking advantage of that Jalen Carter rejection, especially on the goal line. They gave Javonte Williams, new free agency signed running back, 2 goal line carries that ended up with touchdowns. They really dominated the line of scrimmage when they got to the goal line in that area. So good job. And Kenny Clark, the defensive tackle they got in the Micah Parsons trade, had a nice debut game as well. I think he got half a sack. He looked good in run defense. So that is a bright spot in what looks like a bad trade for the Cowboys right now. So the run defense definitely did improve. They held Saquon Barkley to under 4 yards a carry, although they did give a lot up to Jalen Hurts as well. But if their main game plan was to stop Saquon Barkley, they did an okay job of that. Also a strong game from second-year defensive end Marshawn Nealand. Got drafted out of Western Michigan last year, known for his high effort, his high motor, how quick he gets to the ball. So he was a player I like coming out of the 2024 draft. Good to see him kind of burst onto the scene in this game. I think get half a sack as well with Kenny Clark. So he could be a name to watch coming up as one of these up-and-coming edge rushers for the Dallas Cowboys. And just to say something that dawned on me last night, I really hope I don't see anyone, because the Cowboys defense played pretty solid in the second half. I really, really hope I don't see anyone trying to justify the Parsons trade on the Cowboys side of things. Because anytime I was excited and encouraged about the Cowboys defense, I just got hit with the thought of, I wonder how much better they would be with Micah Parsons on the field. And of course, he is not anymore. Kenny Clark's a good player, but I mean, you lose a young superstar in the prime of his career. No defense for that. No defense for that at all. I know he wanted a lot of money, but unless this back injury that has popped up with Parsons is way worse than it seems, which could be the case, barring that, again, still a disastrous trade, and this Cowboys defense could have looked even better last night with Parsons on the field. Going back to the game here, Dak Prescott, his return from that season-ending hamstring injury, despite a rather pedestrian stat line, no passing touchdowns, I think he had under 200 passing yards, looked really good, made some really nice throw downfield. A lot of passes got dropped, which we'll talk about later. But he did look really good in his return. He was slinging the ball all over the field, looked decisive, able to get out of the pocket when he needed to, make some throws down the field. So strong, encouraging game from Prescott. Then obviously we have to talk about CeeDee Lamb, star wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys, who made a big impact. He had 7 receptions for 110 receiving yards in that game, leading receiver. But he had 3 super costly drops. I mean, you could even argue that it cost Dallas the game. One was on a key third down in the middle of the field, just went right through his hands, kind of just a concentration drop, really. And then 2 on Dallas's last drive of the game, one really deep down the field over the middle. He had just a hair separation, and Dak put it right in his hands and couldn't come up with it. Disappointing. They were able to get the first down, though, and then on the 4th down, the last offensive play for Dallas the entire game, CD1 in the slot on a fade route against Cooper DeJean had a step of separation. Dak put it right in his hands. He dove out to catch the ball, and it just went right through his hands, and Dallas wasn't able to score in that drive. 4th down, they turned it over on downs, and CeeDee Lamb said this after the game. He said, "That's terrible. I can't point the finger at anybody else. I take full accountability and everything else that comes with it. As a player, I train for moments like that and the ball to come my way." So I fully expect CeeDee Lamb to bounce back. This was just kind of shaking off the rust from the offseason, but obviously no excuse for that. Kind of cost Dallas the game, which sucks, but you know, who knows, maybe we'll see a 200-yard game for CeeDee Lamb in week 2. But just some overall takeaways. Just a great game to open the season. Both teams looked really strong, especially on defense in the second half. Only 3 second-half points scored total, which I alluded to earlier. 0 passing touchdowns combined, but the offense, they both look very explosive, both teams on offense. So the Eagles looked right where we expected them to. The Cowboys maybe look even better than we thought they might. And this is an early contender for maybe the chippiest game of the season. There were fights after so many plays in the game, but I would argue that made it even more fun to watch. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Middle 8 Football Podcast. I'll be back next week with a breakdown after the full slate of week 1 games have been completed, so look forward to that. But I'll see you guys in the next one.